Hello, America. I'm Brilyn Hollyhand, 15-year-old conservative commentator, editor-in-chief of the Truth Gazette. I'm here in Phoenix, Arizona at Turning Point USA's America Fest. 10,000 young conservatives from all across the country. And I found this really cool guy. You might have heard of him. His name is Ted Cruz. He's a United States Senator from the great state of Texas, and he's agreed to sit down with us here for a few minutes. Senator Cruz, thank you so much for doing this. Really appreciate it.
Great to be with you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, let's start out by briefly getting your thoughts on the latest to come out of the Senate.
Yeah.
Yesterday while I was here at this conference, I got the news that your colleague from West Virginia, Senator Joe Manchin, said that he would not vote for Biden's Build Back Better Act. What's your reaction to that?
Look, I think it's great news. I think it is a big, big deal. This bill, I call it the Build Back Broke bill because this bill was trillions in new spending, trillions in new debt, trillions in new taxes. It was Bernie Sanders' socialist budget.
Yeah.
Bernie is the chairman of the Budget Committee. He is an avowed socialist. And it is the number one priority of Joe Biden to pass. And Manchin is a Democrat, but he represents West Virginia. And West Virginia is a very red state. And Manchin's statement yesterday is a big, big deal. And I commend him. I think he's showing real courage standing up to this, and really he's listening to the people back home in West Virginia, not the people in Washington, and that doesn't happen nearly as often as it should.
Yeah, we need more people to cross over those lines. And
yeah.
Glad to see Senator Joe Manchin. I'd love to see him maybe change the D beside his name to an R. Maybe we'll see that coming soon.
I would love to see it too. I think he's reluctant to do it, but I'll tell you this. If the extreme left is nasty enough to him that they could drive him over, they're so angry, they're so bitter that if they're really nasty, we would welcome him.
Yes, we would. Yeah, I think they're hurting themselves there a little bit. Speaking about your good pal Joe Biden, one of the first things Joe Biden did when he came into office was immediately halt all construction of the wall on our southern border. Since then, we've seen a record high number of illegal border crossings. The Pew Research Center released an article last month. They said, quote, the U.S. Border Patrol reported more than 1.6 million encounters with migrants along the U.S.-Mexico border in the 2021 fiscal year, which is quadruple the number in the prior year. That's insane. That is absolutely insane. What do we need to do to protect our southern border? And what's your message to Joe Biden and our borders are, Kamala Harris?
Oh, look, it is an absolute disaster on our southern border. I represent the great state of Texas. Our country has a total of 2,000 miles of border with Mexico. 1,200 of those miles are in Texas. And this is the worst I've ever seen it. I've been to the border a lot. I go out regularly with Border Patrol agents on midnight patrol. It is completely unsecured. We've got, as you noted, 2 million illegal immigrants crossing this year. Worst illegal immigration in 61 years. And Biden caused this. This is a man-made disaster. 3 decisions caused the crisis at the border. Number one, when he came into office, he immediately halted construction of the border wall, which you just noted. Number 2, he reinstated the catch and release policy, which is a failed policy where they catch someone, they give them a court date sometime in the future, say, please show up, they let them go, and the vast majority of them are never seen again. And then number 3, Biden ended something called the Remain in Mexico agreement. Now, what was that? Remain in Mexico was an agreement that President Trump negotiated with the government of Mexico, where Mexico agreed that anyone who crossed illegally into Mexico would remain in Mexico while their U.S. asylum case was proceeding. And the agreement was an incredible success. Last year, in 2020, we had the lowest rate of illegal immigration in 45 years.
Wow.
First day in office, Joe Biden ripped that agreement to shreds. It caused this disaster, and it really is inflicting an enormous human toll in terms of public safety, in terms of national security, in terms of public health, in terms of the humanitarian disaster of open borders.
Absolutely. Changing gears a little bit, your old buddy Beto is running for governor of Texas.
He is.
What are your thoughts on that, and what words of advice do you have for your old friend?
He's going to get whipped. Again, he's gotten good at that. Look, he is a talented candidate. He's a charismatic guy. I think this year in particular, no Democrat is winning in the state of Texas. Beto's policy views are far left. They're well out of the mainstream of where the people of Texas are. But Biden has been so disastrous. Biden's poll numbers, he's got about 34% approval in Texas and about 64% disapproval. You ain't winning as a Democrat when the top of the ticket is minus 30. And so I think Beto, that race will spend $100 million. It'll be expensive. And you will see leftists, he will cause their heart to swoon and they'll send him money. But at the end of the day, apparently he really wanted to lose a third time, and I think the voters of Texas will be glad to oblige.
I think you're right on that prediction there, but we will see. Speaking of the major election that's come, we just had one last year. We're just a few days away from 2022 for a major election year. Again, the midterms are coming in hot, and Republicans are in a great position going into it.
Yes.
Do you think Republicans can take back control of the House and Senate?
I do. I am very optimistic. I think 2022 is going to be a wave election. I think it's going to be an awful lot like 2010 was. I think it's going to be an awful lot like 1994 was. In both instances, you had a brand new Democratic president, a president who had gone far to the left, and the American people recoiled, and we saw tidal waves come in. I think the odds are overwhelming that Republicans will take the House. I'd probably put the odds at maybe 90-10 that we take the House. And the Senate, I'd put the odds at about 50-50. I think it's going to be a really favorable political year. It's not a great Senate map, so there are more vulnerable Republican seats on the ballot than there are Democratic seats, so we've got to win some tight states. But I think it's very doable, and as I sit here, the most likely outcome, I believe, is that we win both houses of Congress.
Good, and we're looking forward to that. We have another election coming up in 2024. So aside from the midterms, what are your thoughts on the field of potential candidates going into 2024, and would you ever consider another run for president?
Absolutely. In a heartbeat. I ran in 2016. It was the most fun I've ever had in my life. We had a very crowded field. We had 17 candidates in the race, very strong field. And I ended up placing second. And, there's a reason historically that the runner-up is almost always the next nominee. And that's been true going back to Nixon or Reagan or McCain or Romney. That has played out repeatedly. You come in with just an enormous base of support. In 2016, we raised over $92 million. That was the most money any Republican has ever raised in the history of presidential primaries. That came from 1.8 million contributions of people just going to tedcruz.org and contributing.
Yeah.
We had 326,000 volunteers. We had this incredible grassroots army. And we've also, Trump and I went head to head when we both, he and I have a unique relationship. I work very closely with him. In fact, I had dinner with him just a couple of weeks ago down in Mar-a-Lago. We worked hand in hand during the 4 years that he was president. But Trump and I, our relationship is unique because I was the only one in the field who he punched in the face, and I turned around and punched him back in the face. and he prevailed in that contest. But I think then we both put the interests of the country first and worked together and accomplished a lot. And after the damage of Joe Biden these 4 years, I think we're going to need to do that again.
So putting the aspects of a future presidential run aside, let's talk about deep stakes. If Donald Trump announced he was running for re-election today, he called you tomorrow morning and asked you to be his VP nominee, would you say yes?
It's a very good question. I'm not going to answer you, but I give you credit for asking. Look, I am thrilled to be in the Senate. I have had lots of conversations with Trump about lots of jobs. Last year I wrote a book called One Vote Away, How a Single Supreme Court Seat Can Change History. Yeah. And the opening chapter I talk about in November 2016, sitting down with Trump at Trump Tower and talking with him about being Attorney General. Ultimately, I didn't do that, but he also at the time leaned in pretty hard about the possibility of my going to the U.S. Supreme Court. And I told him then that was not something I wanted to do, and so I said flat out no. The job I have now is a pretty fantastic one. Being in the Senate, number one, representing the state of Texas, 29 million Texans, is an incredible privilege. But the Senate really is the arena. It's like the gladiatorial arena in ancient Rome. Yeah. And I view my job as standing up and leading the fight to every ridiculous, asinine idea coming from Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and Kamala Harris. So I'm going to keep doing that, and I'm grateful for the chance.
Well, I don't know about y'all, but I'd love to see Ted Cruz sitting on the Supreme Court on the bench. Last question here today. We're wrapping up. We're at Turning Point USA's America Fest in Phoenix, Arizona. 10,000 young conservatives just right down the hallway. I was there a second ago. They're so excited. Your name got teased. I mean, that crowd erupted. They're so excited to hear you right when you get done with this. What's your message going to be to them today?
Look, my message is revival is coming. That as bad as things are, and we all know how bad they are, it's waking people up. And I think this country, we're fixing to have a phenomenal 22 and an even better 24. It took Jimmy Carter to give us Ronald Reagan. And I think Joe Biden is setting us up for exactly the same kind of conservative revival and resurgence. And that's what we need to pull our country back.
Absolutely. Senator Ted Cruz, thank you for taking the time.
It's a pleasure.
Really appreciate you. Looking forward to the next election. It's going to be a good year for Republicans.
Absolutely.
Thank you.